When Sophia's eyes opened on the morning of October 14th, 2015, the first thing she saw was foam pouring from her husband's mouth. Sam's body was cold, his limbs were stiff, and within hours, the whole world would believe she was a devastated widow. But the truth? She'd been planning his death for over 2 years. This is the story of a murder so calculated, so methodical, that the killers wrote down every step in their diaries. And when Australian police finally read those pages in court, the words were so chilling that even the judge seemed shaken. But we're getting ahead of ourselves. Let's start with that terrible morning in Melbourne. Sophia screamed when she touched Sam's skin. It was ice cold, far colder than any living person should feel. She shook him. Nothing. She called her sister Sonia, a nurse who lived nearby, and within minutes, Sonia was on the phone telling her to call emergency services immediately. The operator on the other end tried to walk Sophia through CPR compressions, but when help arrived 13 minutes later, it was already too late. Sam's body temperature was 27.7 degrees Celsius, a full 10 degrees below normal. His jaw was locked so tight that his tongue was trapped between his teeth. Foam and blood were still seeping from his mouth. The paramedics tried everything. They worked on him for over 20 minutes, but Sam Abraham, just 33 years old, was gone. Standing in the corner of the room, barely able to process what he was witnessing, was their 6-year-old son. The boy watched strangers pump his father's chest, watched his mother cry, watched his whole world collapse in a single morning. The preliminary assessment seemed straightforward enough. Young man, sudden cardiac arrest. Tragic, but not unheard of. There was no sign of forced entry, no evidence of a struggle. The forensics team took a few photos and left. This looked like a medical emergency, not a crime scene. But here's where things get strange. Just 4 days before his death, Sam had been in Kerala, visiting his parents after a 2-week vacation with his family. And when it was time to leave, Sam told his father something that nobody could forget. He said he had a feeling that the next time he came home, it wouldn't be as a living man. He'd be inside a coffin.
I feel I will return home in a coffin.
He even specified where he wanted to be buried, right next to his grandfather's grave. His father tried to laugh it off, tried to tell him not to talk like that. But Sam was serious, deadly serious. Was it just paranoia? A strange premonition? Or did Sam already know someone was planning to kill him? 2 days after Sam's death, his body was flown back to Kerala. The local Malayalam community in Melbourne had rallied around Sophia, raising thousands of dollars to help her transport her husband's body home. She played the grieving widow perfectly. At the funeral, she sat beside Sam's casket for hours, sometimes sobbing uncontrollably, other times falling into an eerie, vacant silence. She'd stroke his hair, kiss his forehead, and everyone who saw her felt their hearts break for this young woman who'd lost everything. But behind that mask of grief, Sophia had a secret, and soon that secret would destroy her. After the funeral, Sophia returned to Australia with her son. She had no choice, really. Her job was there. Her son's school was there. Life had to go on. But she didn't abandon Sam's parents. Every single Saturday, like clockwork, she'd call them. She'd ask about their health, let them talk to their grandson, keep that connection alive. For 9 months, those weekly calls were the one thing Sam's parents could count on. The one thread still tying them to the son they'd lost. And then, in July 2016, the call stopped. The first Saturday, Sam's parents figured Sophia must be busy. Work stress maybe, or the kid was sick. They'd hear from her next week, but the next Saturday came and went. Silence. 2 weeks without a word. Concerned now, they called Sophia's sister, Sonia, the one who lived in Melbourne. Maybe she'd know what was going on. Maybe Sophia was okay. but the answer Sonia gave them made their blood run cold. "Sophia can't talk to anyone right now," Sonia said quietly. "She's been in jail for the last 15 days. Jail? For what? The answer came fast and brutal. Sophia had been arrested on suspicion of murdering Sam. Not manslaughter, not an accident. Murder. Premeditated, calculated murder. And suddenly, everything Sam's parents thought they knew about their daughter-in-law shattered into pieces. The autopsy results had come back weeks after Sam's death, and what they revealed changed everything. This wasn't a heart attack. Sam's blood contained massive levels of cyanide, 28 milligrams per kilogram, nearly 30 times the lethal dose. On top of that, toxicologists found traces of clonazepam, a powerful sedative often used as a sleeping pill. Sam hadn't died naturally, he'd been drugged unconscious, then poisoned with one of the deadliest substances known to man. But here's what makes Australian police so dangerous to criminals. They didn't immediately storm Sophia's door and drag her in for questioning. They knew that the guilty often make mistakes when they think they've gotten away with it. So instead of confronting her, they watched. 3 separate surveillance teams were assigned to Sophia. One team tracked her physical movements, another monitored every phone call she made. A third kept tabs on her bank accounts and financial transactions, and they didn't do this for days or weeks. They watched her for months. And sure enough, Sophia started to slip. 5 months after Sam's death, Sophia transferred ownership of Sam's car to a man. Then she did something even more suspicious. She opened a joint bank account with this same man and transferred all of Sam's money into it. The surveillance team watching her movements noticed she was meeting someone regularly. Parks, cafes, always the same guy. No, first, they were careful, avoiding crowded areas, acting like they didn't want to be seen together. But as time went on, they got bolder. The way they touched each other, the way they looked at each other, it was obvious. This wasn't a friend. This was a lover. Police recorded over 100 hours of phone conversations between Sophia and this man. And when they finally compiled all the evidence from the 3 surveillance teams, one name kept appearing over and over. The man Sophia had transferred Sam's car to. The man she'd opened a bank account with. The man she was meeting in secret. All the same person. Aaron Kamalasanen. But who the hell was Aaron Kamalasanen, and what did he have to do with Sam's murder? To understand that, we need to go back to 2003. Back to a small village in Kerala called Karuvalur, where Sam Abraham grew up. Sam was the kind of kid everyone liked, smart, easygoing, great singer. He sang in the local church choir, and that's where he met Sophia. They'd known each other since they were kids, lived in the same neighborhood, went to the same school. Eventually, that childhood friendship turned into something more. By the time they were in college, Sam and Sophia were in love. In 2003, Sam decided he wanted to marry her, but first, he needed to finish his MBA. So he moved to Dindigul in Tamil Nadu to complete his degree. Meanwhile, Sophia enrolled in a postgraduate program at Mahatma Gandhi University in Kottayam, and that's where she met him. Arun Kamalasanan, an engineering student. They spent a lot of time together. Study sessions turned into coffee dates. Coffee dates turned into something more, and soon, Sophia was living a double life. She was still in a relationship with Sam, still planning to marry him, but she was also sleeping with Arun. Sam had no idea. He was in another state, focused on his studies, trusting the woman he loved. And Sophia? She was very good at keeping secrets. By 2005, Arun graduated and got a job. Sam finished his MBA, and Sam and Sophia were back in the same city, closer than ever. But here's the thing, Sophia never told Sam about Arun. She buried that chapter of her life and acted like it never happened. 3 years later, in 2008, Sam and Sophia decided to get married. Both families knew each other, so there were no objections. Well, almost none. Initially, Sam's father refused to approve the marriage. But Sophia pulled out the ultimate weapon. She threatened to kill herself if they didn't let her marry Sam. Sam's father caved. The wedding happened. And a year later, they had a son. Life seemed perfect. Sophia got a job in Bangalore. Sam got a job at Lulu Exchange in Oman and had to move abroad for work. And that distance, that's when things started to shift. In 2009, 6 years after their college affair ended, Sophia and Arun reconnected on Facebook. Sam was in Oman, Sophia was in Bangalore, and slowly, carefully, the affair started again. Sam had no idea. How could he? He was in another country, working hard to provide for his family, trusting his wife completely. Fast forward to 2011. Sophia's older sister Sonia was already settled in Melbourne, Australia. And suddenly, Sophia decided she wanted to move there too. Sam didn't understand why. It made no sense. From Oman, he could easily visit India on holidays, spend time with family, keep everyone close. He even suggested Sophia move to Oman with him instead. But Sophia refused. She wanted Melbourne. And she wasn't taking no for an answer. Looking back now, it's obvious why. She wasn't moving to be closer to her sister. She was moving to get away from Sam, to create an ocean of distance between them,
I feel
to make
I
it
will
easier
return
to
home
hide
in
the
a coffin.
affair. In 2012, Sophia moved to Melbourne with their 3-year-old son. Sam didn't want to be separated from his family. He wasn't the ambitious, career-chasing type. His priority was always his wife and son. So a few months later, at the start of 2013, Sam gave up his job in Oman and moved to Australia too. He thought he was making a sacrifice for love. He had no idea he was walking into a trap. And then, in July 2013, Arun Kamalasanan also moved to Melbourne. Police would later find an entry in Arun's electronic diary dated July 7, 2013. It read, "Met my love for the first time in Melbourne after 7 months." That confirmed what investigators already suspected. Sophia and Arun had been meeting regularly in India too. This wasn't some random rekindled romance. It was a long-term, deliberate affair. And now, all 3 of them were living in the same city. Sam, Sophia, Arun. Something had to give. Eventually, Sam found out. Nobody knows exactly how, but the truth came out. His childhood sweetheart, the woman who'd threatened to die if she couldn't marry him, had been cheating on him for years. And for reasons nobody can fully understand, Sam forgave her. Maybe he was thinking about their son. Maybe he didn't want to break up the family. Maybe he just loved her too much to let go. But he gave her another chance. Sophia cried. She apologized. She promised it was over. But it was all a lie. Because at that point, she and Arun had already made a decision. Sam wasn't an obstacle they could work around anymore. He was an obstacle that needed to be removed. Permanently. 3 months before Sam died, something happened that should have been a massive red flag. It was July 2016, and Sam was sitting in his car at a train station in Lar, a suburb of Melbourne. Suddenly, a masked man emerged from the back seat where he'd been hiding and attacked Sam with a knife. The blade slashed across Sam's neck, his temple, his cheek. Deep, vicious wounds designed to kill. But Sam fought back. He didn't freeze. He didn't give up. He wrestled with his attacker and managed to rip the mask off his face. The attacker panicked and ran. When police arrived, they found zip ties and handcuffs in the car. Tools that suggested this wasn't some random mugging. This was a planned abduction. Maybe even a planned murder. Here's the strangest part. Sam told police he saw the attacker's face clearly, but he claimed he didn't recognize the man. Police found that hard to believe. Later, when they investigated Arun's whereabouts that day, they discovered he'd called in sick to his job at a Mercedes-Benz dealership. He claimed he was injured, but the timing was too perfect. Police were convinced Arun was the masked attacker. The motive was already clear. And Sam? He probably did recognize Aaron's face, but he didn't tell police. Maybe he was scared, maybe he was in denial, or maybe, deep down, he knew what was coming next and felt powerless to stop it. That's why, just days later, when Sam went back to Kerala for vacation, he told his father he'd be coming home in a coffin next time. It wasn't a premonition, it was a prediction. Sam knew his life was in danger. And he was right. The night of October 13th, 2015, Sophia put her plan into motion. While Sam was home, she quietly let Aaron into the house and hid him inside. Then she prepared an avocado milkshake for Sam, but this wasn't a loving gesture. Arun had given her a heavy dose of sleeping pills, and Sophia crushed them into the drink. Sam drank it, unsuspecting, and within an hour, he was unconscious. That's when Aaron came out of hiding. He had a bottle of cyanide mixed into orange juice. And here's where the plan gets truly disturbing. They couldn't just pour poison down his throat. If they gave him too much liquid at once, his body might choke and cough it out. So instead, they did it slowly. They tilted Sam's head back and poured small amounts of the poison juice into his mouth. The body has something called an involuntary swallowing reflex. Even when you're unconscious, your throat will automatically swallow small amounts of liquid to prevent choking. That's why you don't drown on your own saliva when you sleep. Sophia and Aaron used that reflex to murder Sam. They poured poison into his mouth bit by bit, and his body swallowed it without him ever waking up. By the time the cyanide reached lethal levels in his system, it was too late. Sam never had a chance. The next morning, Sophia woke up next to his corpse and called for help. She played her role perfectly. The crying, the panic, the disbelief. And for 10 months, she almost got away with it. But Australian police had a secret weapon. It's called Operation Mr. Big, and it's one of the most effective undercover techniques in the world. Here's how it works. Police officers create a fake criminal organization and slowly recruit the suspect into it. They befriend the target, gain their trust over months, and eventually get them to confess to crimes while secretly recording everything. In this case, an undercover cop started hanging out at the bar Arun frequented. They struck up a friendship, grabbed drinks together, talked about life. And slowly, carefully, the officer earned Arun's trust. Months went by. And then one night, Arun started talking. He confessed everything. And the entire conversation was caught on hidden cameras. On August 12, 2016, nearly 10 months after Sam's death, Australian federal police arrested both Sophia and Aaron. When they searched their homes, they found something even more damning than the recorded confession. Diaries. Sophia kept a handwritten journal. Aaron kept an electronic diary on his laptop, and the entries inside were absolutely chilling. Sophia's diary was filled with love letters to Arun. I'm waiting for you. I wish to sleep in your arms. I want to be yours, but you are not mine. Hug me tight. Hold me nude. I'm here for you. But then the tone would shift. Why am I made with a rock heart? Why am I so cunning? Why am I so cruel? You make me do bad things. Why did you make me bad? And then came the entry that sealed her fate. July 18th, 2013. Just weeks after Sam moved to Melbourne, Sophia wrote, "Planning is always needed in what we do. An idea without a plan is no more than a dream." That one sentence proved everything. This wasn't a crime of passion. This was premeditated murder, planned years in advance. She'd been plotting Sam's death since 2013, almost from the moment he arrived in Australia. Arun's diary wasn't much better. It may take thousands of books to describe how much I love you. I'm afraid. How many more days do I need to live in pain without her? I am sure that one day she will be mine, this life and next. These weren't the words of innocent people. These were confessions written in ink. The trial began in January 2018, 17 months after their arrest. At first, both pleaded not guilty, but as the evidence piled up, they each tried to throw the other under the bus. Arun claimed he acted alone. He said Sophia was asleep the whole time, that she had no idea he'd poisoned Sam. He tried to paint himself as the obsessed lover who killed for a woman who didn't even ask him to. Sophia went the opposite direction. She claimed she was in a deep sleep when Arun snuck into the house and murdered her husband. She cried in court, playing the victim once again. But the prosecution had the diaries. They had the phone records. They had over 100 hours of recorded calls. They had the surveillance footage of them meeting in secret. They had the joint bank account. They had the car transfer. And they had Arun's roommate, who testified that Sophia frequently visited Arun's apartment. The roommate also revealed something else. Arun was married too. He had a wife and child back in India. So this wasn't just about forbidden love. This was about two people willing to destroy multiple families to be together. The forensic toxicologist explained in court how the murder was carried out. He detailed how the involuntary swallowing reflex works, how someone can be poisoned while unconscious, how the liquid has to be given slowly in amounts under 50 milliliters to avoid triggering a choking response. The prosecutor showed that there was no forced entry, proving Sophia had let Arun inside. The autopsy confirmed both cyanide and clonazepam in Sam's system, proving he'd been drugged first. Arun's lawyers tried to argue he had mental health issues. His elderly parents, wife, and child wrote letters to the court begging for mercy, but the judge wasn't buying it. Neither was the jury. On August 16, 2018, the verdicts came down. Arun Kamalasanan was sentenced to 24 years in prison with no chance of parole for 20 years. Sophia was sentenced to 22 years with no chance of parole for 18 years. Throughout the sentencing, Sophia showed no emotion, no tears, no remorse. In fact, she called the verdict unsafe and unsatisfactory, still refusing to accept responsibility for what she'd done. But the biggest victim in all of this wasn't Sam, as tragic as his death was. It was the 9-year-old boy who'd lost both parents in one night. His father was dead. His mother was a murderer. The court awarded custody to Sophia's sister, Sonia, the same woman who'd unknowingly helped Sophia maintain her cover. Sam's parents in Kerala fought desperately for custody of their grandson, but Australian law kept him in the country. They're allowed weekly video calls, but Sophia's relatives are always present, monitoring what's said. That boy is 16 now, old enough to understand what his mother did, old enough to know he'll never have a normal life again. And here's the final twist. Sophia has Australian citizenship. When she's released, she can stay in the country, but if she ever leaves, she can never come back. Arun doesn't have citizenship. When his sentence ends, he'll be immediately deported to India. So even if they both survive their prison terms, even if they still want to be together after more than 2 decades behind bars, they can't. Australian law will keep them separated forever. When police asked Sophia why she didn't just divorce Sam, her answer was stunning. She said divorce was against their culture, against their beliefs. Let that sink in. Divorce was against her culture. But murdering her husband in his sleep, that was fine. Two people's obsession didn't just destroy one life. It shattered an entire family. It orphaned a child. It left Sam's parents grieving a son they'll never see again, fighting for a grandson they can barely speak to. And for what? For a relationship that was doomed from the start. A relationship that was built on lies, fed by secrecy, and cemented with poison. Sam Abraham predicted his own death. He told his father he'd come home in a coffin, and 4 days later, he did. The question that haunts everyone who studied this case is simple. Did Sam know his wife was planning to kill him? Did he recognize Aaron's face during that knife attack and stay silent out of fear? Did he forgive Sophia one last time, hoping she'd change, only to pay for that mercy with his life? We'll never know. Because the only
I
person
feel
who could answer
will
those
return home
questions
in a
died
coffin.
with cyanide in his blood, and his wife's kiss still on his forehead. This wasn't a crime of passion. It wasn't a moment of madness. It was a calculated execution, planned for years, written down in diaries, and carried out with cold precision. And the most terrifying part? If Australian police hadn't been patient, if they hadn't watched and waited, Sophia and Arun might still be free today. The perfect murder. The grieving widow, the fresh start. But they got greedy, they got comfortable, and in the end, their own words condemned them.